It was revealed yesterday that Manchester United will make up to 200 jobs redundant to return the club to profitability. It adds to the 250 members of staff who were made redundant last year in a first wave of cost-cutting measure by co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And the boys in the sports bar debated whether INEOS and Sir Jim have actually made things worse since taking over.
I think Man United have turned into a bit of a laughing stock.
Well, they are
meant to be one of the biggest clubs.
Being ridiculed.
Outside Real Madrid, Jace. Yeah. Man United are the biggest club in the world.
I know. They're in the top 2 or 3 without question. That's not for debate.
This would never happen at Real Madrid.
No, but mate, what if the club is hemorrhaging money? What if Ratcliffe has gone in there and he's looked at the books? He's allowed the Glazers have done whatever they've done, right? They've taken dividends. They have not ploughed back that money. They have taken their own dividends. We all know about the ground. We all know. I mean, I've got friends of mine that Man United fans. They say the place is falling apart, right? I don't know whether it is. People tell me. Man United fans, you tell me. But then you see the roof leaking the way that it is. He might have gone in there and looked at this and said, "Who has allowed this football club to literally run into the gutter?"
Yeah, there you go. The only show on the planet where we give you the benefit of O'Hara and Cundy's expertise in the business footballing issues. I tell you,
you suggested that they...
I struggle to listen to those two talking about football, right? Never mind giving us the rights and wrongs of business within football.
I think you've got it all wrong. I think Jamie's a well-financed guy.
Brilliant. Get them on the show with that football expert. What's his name? The one that comes on every time.
Stefan.
Aye, get them on, man. Now, a man, getting back, we get joined by a man who I know very, very well, certainly has his 5 a day. We're going to get more on this with talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, who also happens to be a big United fan. We know that. It's a very good morning to Alex Crook. Crookie, a very good morning, mate.
Morning, boys. Is there a show on this station that Troy's not infiltrated, by the way? I was driving home from a game, he's on the radio. I'm coming home from the pub.
I was just going to say, talking to people that don't know anything about football. Hey, Crookie, how you doing, mate?
Crookie, with the greatest respect, mate, I know we're talking about it and I know it's headlines. And Troy and I were said earlier, it's not a good look, right? Of course it's not a good look. However, so Jim Ratcliffe is a businessman and he obviously feels that these cost-cutting exercises are required. So where do you sit with it?
Well, I think we're missing the bigger picture and we're not talking about the elephant in the room. Manchester United as a football club, you've mentioned it there, or Jamie and Jason did, still one of the biggest, if not alongside Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world. There's still a licence to print money. The stadium is full for every home game. You go to Old Trafford when the team are playing and they're queuing out the block to get into that mega store, which again is a money-making machine. The reason that INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are having to make such cruel cuts on the face of it, and they're taking all the flack, is because of the Glazers. The interest payments on the loan that the Glazers took out to buy Manchester United has now topped £1 billion. The Manchester United Supporters Trust have done a study into it, and they think the interest payments in the next 2 years are going to soar to £50 million a year. So it's pretty clear why they're saving this money. They're shutting the canteen at Old Trafford. They've been dishing out free lunches for staff there. Now, there is an argument that why should they get free lunches? That's going to save £1 million a year, Manchester United estimate. That's a drop in the ocean compared to these interest payments. And what the Glazers have done over the last 2 decades is they've lined their own pockets. Slowly but surely, the team has got worse on the pitch. The stadium has fallen into disrepair to such an extent that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is looking at building a brand new one. The training ground has been allowed to rot compared to other big clubs in the Premier League. So I feel a little bit for INEOS because the Glazers are laughing. You know, they're still getting all the benefits, and it seems they're not taking any of the flack because they're getting all the blame.
This is frankly unbelievable, because what you're saying is, and you're obviously more on it than I am, how's this going to stop? In the foreseeable future, I know INEOS are getting a little bit of flack for making what they would obviously see as necessary cutbacks, right? And that's fine, because they've got to look at their business plan and see what's required, right? So they're doing that. But how do you see it stopping hemorrhaging up at the other end where the Glazers are taking it? Or is that going to happen?
Well, it doesn't. There's only 2 ways it stops. One is that they sell the club completely and they get out of town. And obviously that's the desire of the majority of Manchester United fans. Or they start paying the interest out of their own pockets. But they're not going to do that. They've not done that for the last 2 decades. So it's very difficult all the time. The Glazers have still got a hold on the football club to see how Manchester United get back to where they were. And actually, what Sir Alex Ferguson did so well is he protected the Glazers because he was still managing to find a team that were winning trophies. You look at that team that won the last Premier League title. It's not a great Manchester United team. And it was only the genius of Fergie that managed to pull that off. And then he rode off into the sunset. It was always going to decline once he went because he was so central to the success of the football club. But I don't think anybody saw it unravelling quite this badly. This is the worst Manchester United team that I've ever seen. That performance at Everton at the weekend, I was literally just walking around the Arsenal press room, shaking my head at how terrible this group of Manchester United players are. And the recruitment guys have to take a bit of flack there because despite what I've said about the Glazers, the club have still spent money, but they've spent it really badly in terms of recruitment.
Crookie, just a question. So you're talking about trying to get it back to where it was and how Sir Alex had it. The chief exec, Omar Barada, spoke about a transformational plan. But is there any news of what that is, or is it just another strapline being thrown out there?
Yeah, I think it was dressed up as corporate restructuring yesterday, wasn't it? Which basically is just another word for making another 150, 200 people redundant. And I do think that the wage bill at Manchester United is bloated. You know, they've got a lot more non-playing staff than say, Manchester City, for example. So I understand why some streamlining is needed. But ticket prices, a big bugbear for Manchester United fans because you can use a stick to beat the Glazers for a lot of things. But ticket prices have always been kept reasonable. One of the first things that INEOS have done is raise ticket prices for a youngster wanting to go to Old Trafford to £66. Now, if you've got a family of, an adult and 3 kids, that's a lot of money to go and watch this shambles of the Manchester United team. So Omar Barada talks a good game. So does Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But at the moment, they're not delivering on the pitch. They've had a year in situ now, and INEOS making the big footballing decisions. And you have to make the case that it's got worse for Manchester United and not better.
Right, Crookie, listen, I can't let you go. I've got to ask you, who's that in that painting behind you? And that's not an old picture of yourself, surely, is it? Back in the day. Yeah,
that's the king. Eric Cantona himself, a reminder to the glory days for Manchester United.
Do you know that Crookie genuinely believes that he looks like Amorim? He thinks he looks like Ruben Amorim.
One of my kids told me I look like Ruben Amorim.
Right, that must have been after a few in Portugal. That must have been after a few Sagres, a super bock in Portugal. I'll tell you that right now, Crookie.
I'll tell you what, it's pouring down here on the south coast. Get me on that plane to the Algarve Valley, much needed.
Oh, I don't mind, I'll be joining you, mate. Listen, good to see you this morning. Have a great day, pal. We'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers, boys.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.